What is going on, everybody? It is February 7th, 2024. I'm sorry. Daily log episode over NQ and the price action that unfolded today, the live stream review, of course. So if you guys were in attendance today for the live stream, you're able to see that ultimately the bias and everything that I was looking for and anticipating played out perfectly. And it was a very good example of sticking to narrative and sticking to what the higher time frame parent is telling you. So ultimately, I got stopped out. It was a great, to me, lesson to show to all of you that there's going to be times when you have the draw and liquidity right, where you have everything correct and you get stopped out on an idea and price runs without you. Now, I mentioned multiple times today that there's just simply that there's nothing that you could do in those situations, and it's easier said than done, of course. And I'm not saying that it's something that I enjoy. Of course, nobody likes getting stopped out. Nobody likes having their targets met and price running without them, especially after getting stopped out, even myself. But what I've learned over the years is you're much like a boxer where you are training yourself to take a punch and be better at taking those punches. As a newer student or a newer boxer, those punches and those hits are going to feel a lot worse than if you were 2, 3, 4, 5 years into the craft, right? So to me, it still hurts. I'm not going to sit here and say that it doesn't hurt and I'm not upset by it, but more or less, I've grown accustomed to it. And I hope that all of you will grow into that and are gaining that from me. That's really what I'm trying to state here is that I hope you guys see me take losses. I hope you guys see me do these things in real time and not overreact and not press outside of my rules and my discipline. And that takes a lot of experience, but if I can lend that to you and you can see that, and that's just how you're supposed to act, and you're supposed to move in that certain action is to do nothing, be okay with that idea, and if you have to walk away, then do so. So this week I've taken 2 losses so far. Moving off of last week, I took a loss. So I'm off of 3 losses on the live streams. Now, this is where even on off stream, um, I'll show you guys my P&L by the end of the week, and I'm positive on this week because I've taken some trades in the PM session. I have an execution video on my YouTube from Monday. Yesterday I did as well, and even today. So the live streams to me, it's difficult because there's a part of me psychologically, I'm just kind of venting, psychologically that wants to be perfect, obviously on live stream and show you guys that I can trade, right? And I know what I'm talking about. But that's not the full story. That's not the full capsule because, of course, there's times when I'm not on live stream, I'm taking a trade. So I think the best way that I'm going to be transparent is showing my P&L from my live account and showing obviously with the live stream. So hopefully you guys can take the both sides of the story and understand that there are multiple sides. I'm not only trading just on a live stream. For the most part, if I don't see anything fruitful in the PM session, then I'm not going to take anything. But I want to be as transparent as possible with all of you. It really, really is my goal to do so. Even though I don't have to, I just think it's the best thing because it's what I would be seeking for in a mentor. If I was a newer student and somebody who was getting into this industry, if I could place myself 3, 4 years ago, besides ICT as my mentor, this is what I would want from somebody. And it's what I really try to mold myself into. So I hope you guys do appreciate that because it does take some guts to put yourself out there in front of a lot of people and be vulnerable. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's not something I really want to do, but I have to do it because I think it's the right thing to do for all of you. So with that being said, I know it's a little bit of a rant, but let's look at the higher time frames here and just let's get a perspective. Let's draw ourselves out as we're going into the later portions of this week. So we're moving into Thursday. We have a news event driver high impact tomorrow, and then Friday. So we're above all-time highs again. And I've mentioned on the stream today that this could be problematic. Not necessarily, but for me, for all of us, it's a little bit difficult for me to find a drawn liquidity where price is really going to. So we're essentially in no man's land. When you drop down to the weekly, beautiful expansion this week so far. I'm just curious to see is by tomorrow or Friday, will there be a high of the week set? Thursday could be the high of the week. So tomorrow, depending during the session, then Friday, do we see retracement back into the weekly range for TGIF, that particular profile? But nothing to me is, signaling me to call a top or trying to short this. Only way I'd be doing that is if a profile or something aligned with it. But you can see just today, we expanded above the buy side here, cleared that out. There's nothing in here that would tell me to go short. So if anything, I would look for tomorrow, if we get a retracement down into yesterday's, Tuesday's down close candle here, that may set up price to expand higher again. So if I'm looking at a higher time frame and just looking at standard deviations, I may look at this swing, this inverse swing, and look at the daily for projections. So this is not 100%, it's not concrete. It just gives me something to look at. So we may want to travel up into this region here at 17,996, and then the -1 standard deviation up here at 18,254. So those are a couple areas that we could look for. Again, I'm not a huge fan of standard deviations. I think they're just an area that price could potentially go to. But to me, I'd rather look at the draw on liquidity, premium discounts over standard deviations, for those who are wondering. 4-hour time frame in here. Again, I think the draw on liquidity was super easy today. It was so easy to see where price is going to. And it's unfortunate where you just get stopped out and price runs right to your targets. I mean, again, I can't put it any other way. It's not a fun thing to do, but you're going to experience it a lot. And it's something you have to get used to. Otherwise, you're just going to crumble and fall in this industry, because there's going to be a lot of times where you have the correct position, you have the correct bias, you have everything on point, it stops you out, then it rallies towards the buy side liquidity. Now, I am curious in terms of what ICT has stated. It made me think today for a second, to be honest with you. Is he stated for those live streaming, if you take a position on live stream, you have to be cautious of your own stop loss, because you are engineering liquidity in a sense. Now, I didn't completely buy into that, nor do I don't know if I really do, because I think that a lot of people are on eval accounts and demo and stuff like that follow me. But it does make me think for a second, being on live stream, and I'm just curious to see how things would play out off stream. That's really the point I'm trying to evaluate. So I'm going to keep a close watch on that. I mean, I'm not going to make an excuse for being stopped out or taking a loss, but if that continuously keeps happening, it's definitely going to make me cautious, and I'm going to take a closer look at things. Because to me, that the trade should have worked today. That's all I'm going to say. I couldn't have seen it not working. Of course, that's why we have a stop loss. But to me, I didn't see that scenario not playing out. It's just interesting, right? It's an interesting phenomenon. Again, I'm not making an excuse for it, but it is something that if ICT is stating that, it makes me weary of being on live stream, calling out trades live in front of, hundreds of people. I don't really know. Am I engineering liquidity? Am I really doing that? Is that something, are people really seeking my stop loss because there's hundreds of people following me? Could be true. I mean, if ICT states that, I know it's a pretty out there concept, but I mean, I particularly didn't see any reason for price to retrace back down into this inefficiency down here and then just expand rapidly higher. I mean, just interesting, right? But regardless, I wouldn't have changed anything. And that's the models and the frameworks. If you take a trade and you take a loss, you should look at through the lens of, is there anything else I would have done differently? If no, then there's nothing that you can do. You can't change your model. It doesn't mean to change your model. It means that it's simply a variable out of your winning trades, right? You have a set of winning trades and a set of losing trades. So I put this in your strategy, right? I put this model, okay, I followed all my rules. I did everything perfectly. I wouldn't have changed anything. All right, I put it into the variable, the probabilities of the losing trades. So now I know that, okay, if 25% of my model loses, then I'm putting it into that little bucket. Now that 75%, that variable will kick in to play at one point or the other, if that makes sense. So you have to look at it through the lens of, if I didn't do anything incorrectly, if I didn't make a mistake and I followed everything, then you just have to keep pressing. I did everything I could have done. And it sounds very like a broken record, but you have to keep reminding yourself of these things, even myself, because it's difficult It really, really is. Nobody else is supporting you. Nobody else is telling you these things. You have to be your own cheerleader. You have to constantly be your own mentor and encourage yourself and let yourself know that, you know what, man, I did everything I could have done. There's nothing I would have done differently. I know I've said that like 5 times, but for people like me who are very self-critical, who are very perfectionist mindset, something like this today in the earlier days would have really beat me up. And I've gotten to a point now where, of course, I'm comfortable with the idea that, you know what, there's times where I can't change anything and I have to keep sticking with the model even through the ups and downs. It's much like a partner, like in a marriage. You're going to stick by that person through the ups and the downs. You can't just cheat and go to a different model as soon as it loses. You have to keep sticking with it because that's the only way you're going to find consistency. You have to keep with the losses, right? You keep your composure, make sure that when you do take losses, you're looking at it and, you know, making sure you did follow all those rules. If you did something incorrectly, if you FOMO'd into a trade, you didn't take the model or the strategy perfectly, then refine that, see where you could have done better. But for me in here this morning, we took out sell side liquidity underneath this low in there, but especially underneath those relative equal lows, and then this low in here. So the reason I took this trade was we were moving into the macro right before the silver bullet. The only critique that I could have made, or the adjustment I could have made, was only waiting for the silver bullet. But I have a rule set where I can trade within the macro before the silver bullet. And that was in this time window. So we're reaching up into that. And we had sell stops ran, displacement higher. My narrative and bias for overall today is looking for higher prices. We broke above the SIBI. So to me, that's a change in state of delivery. We have a shift of market structure there. Displaces higher. Fair value gap plus inversion. That's resting here. And if you guys saw, I went long and I was stopped out underneath the inversion. So to me, there's no reason for price to drop again lower. Why is that? Because we've already taken out sell side liquidity. If we've already taken out sell side liquidity, there's a 15-minute, a 5-minute inefficiency in here where the 1 minute I refined it to, and we rejected off of that. And my bias is overall bullish looking for buy side liquidity. Then to me in real time, of course, with hindsight, it's differently, but in real time, there's nothing else that I would have seen. I couldn't see price. There was no reason for price to retrace lower. I could not predict this. There, not in a million years, I could never predict this, nor will I ever. So that just, again, comes with the probabilities and the variables that your model has, and you have to be comfortable with it. No model is going to, no information, you can never learn enough information to predict something like this. At least in my eyes, there's nothing that would have, no amount of information ICT could teach me currently would ever tell me to not take this trade. So it's a job well done by me. Congratulations, pat on the back. Again, it's not something I enjoy, but I do enjoy understanding that I did everything I possibly could have, right? I did everything I could have. So in here, there was nothing for me to probe me to go long. I was annotating this SIBI in here, which as soon as we closed above it, I was going to treat it as an inversion. And you guys saw me on the live stream, I set a limit in here, especially inside of this fair value gap. It's the same model entry I was using in here. If price open dipped down into it, I would have went long and we would have targeted the buy side liquidity that I was originally looking for. So ultimately I didn't get it, and I can't FOMO into the position. I can't push price just because I took a loss and it went to my direction. And ultimately in the rest of the day, we just kind of meandered around. It did nothing really. Moving into the lunch hour, the only other kind of thing I see in here is when we took out buy side liquidity, we dropped lower, and this turned into a bearish breaker. So all of these last down close candles are your bearish breaker. So you have a high, a low, higher high, then a lower low. Trace up into the mean threshold, that dotted line. So all of those down close candles, if you go to like maybe a 2-minute, 3-minute, and maybe a little bit more refined. And inside of the bearish breaker, you can find a fair value gap. That's what's going to be a higher probability breaker to me, at least, is having a fair value gap residing within it. And this is happening right towards the end. This is the end of the, after the silver bullet, moving into, sorry, this is the end of the silver bullet. I'm sorry, I moved over to New York local time. So I'm even myself, I'm trying to get adjusted to it for all those who are asking. But in here, this is the end of the silver bullet macro, and pretty decent short in here. And you would be targeting at least this inefficiency down here, if not the sell side liquidity underneath this low. So short little scalp that you could have went for. I think it's a pretty decent setup after you had a large expansion and you're anticipating that price should reach down into some type of discount before traveling higher again, if it does so. And that's after taking out buy side here, drops lower, breaker for value gap premium from that swing high to the low inside of the macro, drops off lower into the sell side. So that's a decent little setup towards the end of the silver bullet in here. At least I thought. If I was going to take it to another trade today, I mean, that could have been a really nice trade. So, I mean, that's going to be it really for today. I hope you guys learned something. I know it may be a little all over the place today in terms of at least the way in my delivery it sounds from what I'm listening to, but I'm not going to redo the video. I do appreciate all the new support. Tomorrow, again, I'm going to be doing a giveaway with my funded futures. That's going to be a 100K starter account tomorrow. So I hope you guys tune in tomorrow. And until the live stream, good luck and good trading, everybody. Be safe.